This is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield from the Lynn Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Michael provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield.
And we're back. Look at this. This is amazing.
Yay.
We took a few weeks off, it seems. Tana is alive. I was starting to get emails that you can't keep, pretending someone's alive. You gotta tell us the truth. Tana is alive.
I'm here.
You can tell by her tan that she's been vacationing a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm not.
We took 2-3 weeks off. It's been an interesting month. We had the midterms, we've had inflation, we've had earnings, we've had all these things going on. And, and the jury's still out on a couple things, but it's, we just had Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, Tana.
Thank you.
Thanks for being back in action. I had to do a couple solo flights on here before.
I know you did a great job though.
I know, but it's boring to talk to myself. But hey, we have a lot to be grateful for. We live in this beautiful world, in this wonderful country. We've got decent weather, and I can still stand up and walk out the door here. Yep. So that's good news. Got the health. A lot to talk about, as always. Today, we're going to kind of just touch on some economic information. Remember, go back to my recordings on YouTube or Rumble, wherever you watch the shows, or even in the podcast back last week of September. We did a show that we said we see the bottom, and we talked about kind of this 3-course meal to get the stock market to go up. It was earnings, midterms, and inflation. Will the Feds do something? And so earnings came out. They were weak, but earnings were positive. Actually, revenue growth was higher than the 5-year trend, so that was good to see. So companies are making money. That is a positive. The midterms. Little hit and miss there, right?
Figuring it out too.
Learned that we don't follow polling. Let's wait to see what happens before we get carried away on polling. But the most important thing about midterms is it provided certainty. We now really understand what happened. And 2 is, even though it's a slim majority, now that we have fractured government, I've said 100 times on this show, historically, the stock market does the best when a Democratic president has a split Congress. It means that there's a little more sitting on your hands going on when it comes to big spending. So hopefully, for the sense of inflation and sanity, Mr. Government can't spend too much more money or get too carried away for the next couple of years. So that is a positive. That is a conclusion. We know something. The stock market has been grinding higher since then. And then we get to inflation. Obviously, last month's inflation read was a positive one. Inflation, the annualized headline number that they like to use, came down to 7.7% after peaking in June at 9.1%. So market's been grinding higher. And then we get to the whole point of the inflation conversation is that will the Fed pivot? Very exciting thing. And the pivot is kind of defined in a couple ways. 1 is, will they slow down the rate increases? 2, will they stop the rate increases? And 3, will they actually drop rates? When could all of those things happen? That third phase of the pivot, market goes up like a missile, like Kim Jong-un shooting rockets over Japan or whatever. That's what the stock market's going to do. Inflation's coming down. The Feds just let their meeting notes out last week that we have a Fed meeting here December. Hold your breath. I got this from memory. December 13th, I think, is the Fed meeting, meaning December 12th is when inflation read for November comes out. Those are going to be some big couple days. You get another positive surprise in inflation. Guess what? Market's going to have a great rally at the end of the year. You get a huge negative surprise. It could be problematic. But hey, the dollar's been weakening. Commodities are rolling over. Oil's in the low 70s. The treasury's been falling. Real estate's imploded. Everything that was inflation pressure 6 months ago isn't all of a sudden. So let's just hope We're
That's good
crossing all of
news.
our fingers, Tana. Cross everything. Cross it all.
Cross everything.
Cross and hope that we get a positive inflation read. The
Yeah.
expectation at the moment is the Feds are now in pivot phase number 1 of reducing the rate increases. So it's likely in December in a couple of weeks, they'll raise interest rates 0.5%. So there's an 80% chance of that at the moment. Yeah, and we might be kind of done after that. So we're going to talk about that. But before we go, Tana, I've already spent 5 minutes jibber jabbering with myself. Tana
it was a good recap.
Over the last couple of days, she must have been super bored not spending time with her family on Thanksgiving. She's forwarding me CNBC articles.
I spent a lot of time with my family. I really enjoyed it. I did.
All right, so tell me about some of these articles you sent. Forget your family.
Yeah, no,
business.
I was really surprised. I sent you these articles because it was just so surprising that even though we're like, that scary thought of recession that we're in and inflation and all these things that we've been talking about, people are spending so much money. It is unbelievable. So I just wanted to kind of take a look at that.
Hang on, I lost my slides here. That was very unclimactic. I apologize. Hang on, wait for it. All right, it's back.
Yay!
And, and it's funny when you sent that. I thought the same thing too. I was waiting on Saturday and Sunday and a little bit of Monday to kind of see how Black Friday numbers are coming out. Remember, spending is 2 tranches. Black Friday, which is really Turkey Thursday, and then you have Cyber Monday, right? So we're recording this on Cyber Monday, so we don't know the end result today. But like Tana was saying, Black Friday broke the bank. $9 billion, over $9 billion spent.
Unbelievable. I didn't even think to go online on Thanksgiving. I was so busy hanging out with family. I didn't even think to go shopping.
That's very thoughtful of you. Well, actually, and that's what everybody did.
It's not important to me. So.
Well, this other article you sent, I think, even reinforces that.
Yeah.
That more money was spent
on Thursday. Yeah.
On Thanksgiving and online.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. So out of the $9 billion, it looks like a little over $5 billion was spent online on Thursday. What's everybody doing, man? Jeez.
They're staring at their phones. They've got their
cranberry sauce.
The Christmas list. Oh dear.
No, it's crazy. But it is incredible. And the point you're making is very unique. And that is, I thought we were in a recession. I thought the consumer was falling apart. I thought no one had any money anymore and the recession was imminent and all things are bad. And here we are.
You would think they would be pulling it back, just like I do in my household. When I see things like this happening, I actually, think, okay, what can I save money on? What can I pull back on? What can we live without? Like there's things
so like
you just
go
don't
from like a dry aged filet to like a wet aged. Like how would you define your pullbacks on your spending?
Well, there's just eating out less, or maybe not going to the movies because it's not that important, or just
gotta be some movies out.
There's just things that you just cut back on. And then like your existing bills, I look at, could I be saving money on my auto bill? Could I be saving money, my cell phone bill? What are things that I can kind of chip away at?
I just got my homeowner's insurance thing for the year.
Right.
And I just had that thought. I'm like,
is there a way that I could
shop that thing around?
Save some money. Yeah. Spend less. Definitely.
Come on, man. Well, and that's the problem because everything seems to be getting more expensive. Sorry, I'd already scrolled down in this article that you had sent.
Yeah. So over $400 more per month we are spending in our households in the United States. And I can feel it. Absolutely. And everybody I talk to, they can feel it. And, just going to the grocery store alone, I think, eggs, milk, they're just so much more expensive than what we're used to paying.
Yeah.
It just really adds up so quickly.
That's crazy. So if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, Tana's article here on CNBC is saying that, due to inflation, our costs are up a lot. People are spending, $400 or $500 more a month. And they got this little grid here that goes through the associated costs of this stuff. And, we eat a lot of eggs at our house. Now we normally get them at Costco. We've had to go from
every
pasteurized or free range. No, now we eat what is it?
The cheaper
Hicks
one?
Farms at Winco. The ones where like the shell's so thin that you just sneeze on it and it cracks.
Oh dear.
The
That is terrible.
but eggs are more expensive.
Yeah.
Airline fares are up 40%. Butter and who eats margarine for clarity? Is that still
Nobody.
a thing?
That is not healthy.
So I was reminding my wife that I can remember when we were younger how margarine was supposed to be the healthier option to butter.
Right.
Remember
It's
that?
not.
It was
It's
put.
it's actually one
It's
molecule away
it,
from being a plastic.
it's basically just frozen vegetable oil or something. And
It's disgusting.
so everything's still very expensive. Let's
Yeah.
see. Oh, there's some positives though. Smartphones are down 20%. Now they're only $2,000. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now think about the perspective of that. Think about how scammy that is of any
Right?
line item. How did you buy a smartphone 10 years ago? You walked into AT&T and they said, "Oh, hey, bro, if you sign a 2-year contract, we'll give you a free phone." So now you fast forward and say, "Oh, we love you. You don't need to sign a contract. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
All you got to do is pay $23 a month for the next 5 years.
Right. And you add the math up.
$1,200 phone." So somehow we've all
They
got
get you
suckered
either
into
way.
paying tenfold for what phones cost,
Yeah.
but they told us they're cheaper now. No, they're still
No. They're not
800% more
cheaper.
than I was paying before.
Yeah.
Look, veal went down 3.6%.
I never eat that.
Where do you get veal? Was my first question. You don't have a lamb tied to the ground so it can't walk around. You just keep it back
That
there
is
ready to
terrible.
go. Isn't that what veal is? Isn't that like
It's terrible.
baby
No,
lamb or
thank
something?
you.
Pet
Health
food
insurance.
has gone up. Get rid of your pets. That's all I can say there.
Don't do that. But health insurance up 20%. And I see that on a regular basis when I run quotes for people. It's painful.
That makes a good point, Tana. We need to do a Medicare show.
We do. There's so much to talk about.
I'm a Medicare. So, all right, this is depressing. Obviously, prices are higher. People are spending $400 more.
Mhm.
Tana's just going down the black hole of depression here, though, with her articles. So, what do you got next here for us?
Oh dear. Credit card debt is up. It's growing. It's terrible. People are just using their credit cards. They're just swiping them like it's no big deal. They're not like paying attention to like,
Right.
the interest rates on these credit cards are so high now. So yeah, painful. And then,
Oh, it's
you've
crazy.
got mortgages, people getting into higher mortgage rates now with the 7% that we're sitting at. And it's just painful.
Okay, so let's think about what Tana just did for us. People have gone out over the last weekend and spent a ton of money, way more than ever. Oh, by the way, their monthly expenses are higher, and now all of their debts are way higher. Well, you're really creating a picture of joy for the human. So I want to counter it. So I'm going to counter it. So
Okay.
I saw these articles. I actually spent like 8 seconds preparing for this today. So I went and found some things to counter this with. So this one, this is a good slide. So if anybody's watching this, like I said, on YouTube or Rumble, it's a lot easier to see this stuff than when you're listening to the podcast because I've got some pretty pictures. And what I have on here is I have a chart, and it goes back to 1980 when Tana was born. And so since 1980, what it shows is there's 2 lines, but the blue line is the total financial obligations that we all carry. And if you're reading the small print, it says the total includes mortgage, consumer debt, so credit cards, auto leases, rents, homeowners insurance, and property tax. And then what it shows is what it is as a percentage of your disposable income. So the struggle is when you talk about that $400 more a month, when you talk about people's credit cards and the debts and the 7%, blah, 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 blah. The problem is, are we always talking about the same dollar, right? Is the dollar the same as it was 2 years ago, as the same it was 10 years ago, or certainly in the 80s?
Right.
And so as much as debt goes up and spending goes up, so does income. And so what this chart shows for the last 40 years is it shows what is the percentage of our debt relative to our financial obligations. And, you can kind of see here, like during the Great Recession, right? The big crash of 2008 was kind of a high watermark where our debt obligations were the better part of 20% of our disposable income from wages. And that number has consistently fallen, and it's fallen, and it went down a lot pre-COVID or during COVID, and then it kind of back up. But if you look at this chart, even though our debts are higher, our credit cards, our mortgages, our car payments, all this stuff stinks. Well, oh, by the way, our actual physical wages are higher too by default. I mean, what was minimum wage in 1980, Tana? I don't know.
That would have been a good one to look up.
Yeah, 75 cents. Now it's $15 minimum, right?
Yeah.
So people are making more money than they were before, and we're actually at a historical low spot of the obligations as a percentage of our income. So look, I'm a provident living person. I think you should all be out of debt. I think you should all pay your credit cards off. I think you should pay off your mortgage as fast as you can. Pay off your car as fast as you can. I do not like debt. I do not want to owe the man nothing. I don't need, anybody hassling me.
Okay, minimum wage in 1980, because I had to look it up. I'm sorry, you just made me curious.
By the way, that was incredible.
$3.10.
So my 75 cents was off. Okay, but think of that as an increase. If you had that minimum wage worker now making $15 an hour, that's a pretty big increase.
Yeah.
So mathematically, everything is relative, and you have to look at things relative. And when you look at things relative, the reality is things aren't so bad. And ironically, if you're looking at this chart, the total financial obligations that people have, they're still lower than they were in 2019. Even though we're talking about this surge in credit card debt, surge and all this stuff, and it's all crazy. Well, it's funny how our debt obligations are just still kind of at this low watermark. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Not too upsetting. Now let's talk economy real quick. What time is it? I guess we're 16 minutes in. Okay, I'm going to do some high level stuff because we haven't touched on this in a while. I was talking about inflation. Inflation is going to be one of the biggest drivers to what the Feds do, going to be one of the biggest drivers to the stock market over the next kind of 6, 12, 18 months. The M2 money supply. Tan and I have talked about this 1,000 times with everybody. This is the money supply. It has grown steady Eddie for a long stinking time. In fact, since it was recorded, here, let me go to a different screen. I know nobody can see this. They started checking all this hubbub back in 1959. I apologize for misleading you. So it's 1959 February. And it always grew at a steady rate, more or less about 6% a year. Then all of the sudden, what happened in the money supply turned up like a missile in 2020 and 2021. We grew the money supply at 40%, fastest recorded pace increase. So you see the long-term trend line in this picture, and then you see this massive lurch forward a couple of years ago. Well, a phenomenon has been happening. I've told you guys all, don't hold me to this percentage. 80% of our inflation issues are because of the money supply. And the money supply has been rolling over and drying up all year. It went down last month. It went down in April. It's in the last almost 12 months, it's trended at a negative 2% rate. Let me tell you something. That is the slowest growth in money supply since 1959, since 1960. That's when we started tracking it. So ever since we've tracked money supply, this is the slowest pace of the decline we've ever seen. In fact, it's probably the slowest ever. We just never tracked it before. That is amazing in and of itself. That is the inflation drying up out of the system. You see the gap here that we put on the chart. There's still about a $3.8 trillion excess of money in the system from this big bubble we created. That's what we're drying up. This chart, I showed it a number of months ago. It was at 4.4 trillion. The gap is drying up. That's why inflation is really rolling over. It takes 6 to 12 months to see that meaningful change in the money supply. In inflation from the money supply. So this is great news to me.
Yeah.
This is some of the light at the end of the tunnel. Here we have the money supply growth, the blue line, versus the federal budget deficit. So what did the feds do in the last couple of years? They spent a ton of money on COVID stimulus checks. And so that caused the deficit to increase. I mean, that's the scam of the president right now. He keeps saying, I'm the deficit reducer. No, you're not. You guys haven't changed anything about your actual spending. Just simply because there hasn't been any COVID checks that went out that artificially increased the deficit doesn't mean you get to take credit that we've cut our spending. We're so responsible. Because that spending never existed in the system before. And so you can kind of see as the blue line and the red line roll over, M2 money growth is cratering down. The deficit has gone down a lot because we're getting past this COVID policy. Here's a beautiful picture of money demand. Guess what? When it goes up, that's problematic for inflation. What's it doing, Tana? Guesses?
Going down.
Oh, it's going down. This is positive for inflation. What a modern miracle. This one's credit spreads. Credit spreads speak to the health of corporations, speak to the health of our businesses. Credit spreads are really low and really tight. You can kind of see here right in the middle of the chart. Gray bars are recessions. The big red line spikes up a lot. Gray line recession, red line spikes up a lot. We're at a really mellow, historically boring time of credit spreads. There's not a lot of risk out in our companies. Our credit, our balance sheets look good. Our cash flows look good. These companies are doing way better than people want to pretend they are.
Mm-hmm.
Whoo! I got fired up. I apologize for that. So what is the
no, that was good stuff.
The whole theme is things will progress. We probably have a very tumultuous 12 months ahead of us still in the stock market. Tan and I believe the stock market's going to go up higher here through the fourth quarter. We're going to get some positive inflation data. The Feds will start pivoting. All of that will bring the market higher. Then we have to reposition mentally to what do earnings outlook in the first quarter look like for the rest of the year for next year, and then see where the recessionary pressure from the Fed rate increases actually could impact us. And so it's going to be a busy, year, 18 months as we kind of work through the havoc that COVID has created on our economics. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, I think these are all positive things. I would encourage all of you to be careful with your spending.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter if your income's up, save money, be responsible, be pragmatic. Don't be emotional with your finances.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta. I always think of the parable of the grasshopper and the ants. Tana, do you know that one?
The grasshopper and the ants.
Oh my gosh, you don't know that? What's wrong with you?
I don't know.
Where in the summertime, the ants were all working hard to save all the food up, and the grasshopper's like partying and playing his fiddle or something. And then the winter comes, and the ants are all sitting fat and happy in their hole, eating all their food, hanging out. And he's out in the cold, freezing his ass off. And look, you got imagery. And then the ants feel bad for him and have to bring him in. But that's, neither here nor there. The point is, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. There's a lot of anxiety. We still have a war going on in Europe. We still have a freezing winter to get through in Europe and the United States when you talk about energy supplies and things of that nature.
Right.
We've got North Korea shooting rockets all over the place. It's just, there's so much chaos. The economics that Tan and I try to bring to the table are to try to create, a positive outlook to say, hey, look, things aren't as bad as we think. There are a lot of good things going on behind the scenes, but the reality is there's still a lot of uncertainty in this world. And so we always want to be responsible with our finances. So, hey, that was quite the big brother message there. But if you have any questions, please give us a call, 805-500-7035. You can visit our main website, thelindgroup.com. And we appreciate all the feedback. We appreciate all of the viewers and listeners. Like I said, we hope that we'll be back doing this through the holidays, but we hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and had a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a Happy New Year. So we'll bug you guys later. Toodaloo.